Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you what if Naruto failed his Genin test and was given intense training. Part 10 guys. Remember to give this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was too advanced for his age over in Anime King 2, and enjoy that guys. And also stay tuned for a brand new episode over Anime King 3. Yes, if you're new, you heard that correctly. I have 3 channels indeed: Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, as Naruto was in his mindscape, as he was rather pissed. But the fox told him to not worry because, of course, he can give him his eyesight back. As Sakura was having a nervous breakdown and she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that really happened. Someone had infiltrated and pretended to be their sensei, forcing her to get information from Naruto. And everything was just set up perfectly for her to torture him and for him to be distrusting of her. As Naruto woke up in the hospital as Danzo came there, Danzo told him that he was disappointed, that he was unable to see through that ruse, as he would just have to up his training, as Naruto promised that he will do better. Sakura was lying at the head of his bed. As she woke up and she saw him, she broke down in tears. But he forgave her. Her mind just couldn't comprehend how he could forgive her so quickly after everything she did, as he told her that the both of them were friends. But her mind just wouldn't accept it. She hurt him, and she couldn't forgive herself as she ran away. As Harrison made his way towards Danzo's compound, the man was vengeful, he was furious. A kunai placed at Danzo's throat, but Danzo said that he was the one that did it. As the both of them came to the same conclusion: Orochimaru. The both of them had screwed over Orochimaru in the past. Many things had happened behind the scenes that most populace of Konoha weren't afraid of. One thing in particular was, they wanted the other villages to stay at bay, so they tricked almost everyone, telling them that Orochimaru was the one with the tail beasts. Yes, and a full-fledged ninja like Orochimaru, possessing 9 tails power, everyone was afraid to do anything. But that was just a lie. But that was just the tip of the iceberg of what they did. Both men seemed to be messed up in things that was gonna surely hurt them in the future. Out of that, Danzo wasn't the one that started any siege or any attack on Naruto. It could have been Inoichi, given the man's daughter's recent death and Naruto was unable to save her. But it wasn't Inoichi either, as Aoba had signed into the IT department, but it wasn't Aoba, it was a person that infiltrated the place. The both of them were trying to come up with a conclusion on changing the team so they could take the exam, as they didn't want Naruto to be targeted by Orochimaru if he indeed was the culprit. But things didn't work out so good the next day. As Sakura was trying to keep her distance, she felt too angry with herself, but yet still Naruto was still smiling at her, and he was talking to her normal. And he didn't want her to leave the team, he didn't want any of them to leave the team. As they went inside, Harrison came to speak to the 3 of them about changing teams. Aoba had spoken to Naruto, and Naruto said that he frankly just didn't care anymore. The way he spoke and the way he acted, it was like he was literally broken. But Aoba trusted Naruto, and prying more into his situation would just do him more harm than good. So Aoba decided to have his faith in Naruto. But neither of them wanted to change teams, as Harrison was quite surprised by that, even Danzo as well. So with that Team 13 stick together, as they were given a mission outside the village. The Chunin exams are coming up very soon. They were to go to the Fire Temple. Their mission entailed with a boy named Sora. Making their way there, the fox spoke to Naruto as some of his power was inside that boy. Some mishap a long time ago, and his power was currently in that boy. As the fox said, that Naruto wouldn't do him this favor and get back that power for him, even if it involves the boy's death. As Naruto asked Sora about his arm, but the boy seemed rather defensive about it. But Aoba went to talk to the head monk, and with that they left as they made their way back. So yeah guys, so basically as we left off, you guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So this will be in this new episode. So, Sakura says she tried to make some idle conversation along the road. What is it like to be a monk, she asks. Sora looked towards her sharply. What does it feel like to have pink hair? Do you dye it or what, he asks. Sakura narrowed her eyes. You know, I was trying to be polite, she said. I don't want to waste my breath, he said. Not with shinobis. Not with murderers. She hasn't killed anyone yet. Actually, I think I'm the only one that has. Except for Sensei. As he locked eyes with Sora. So do not insult her. She chose that profession. She chose to become a murderer. Not all shinobis are tasked with assassination missions, said Aoba. Many just take care to knock out their enemies. And usually a lot became chonins because of their age, or end up at a desk job. The orders to kill are largely reserved to jonins in Konoha. This doesn't change anything, Sora said. She might end up killing someone anyway. What's up with you and shinobi, said Naruto. What did they do to you? They killed my father, he said angrily. That is what your people do. And now you want me back. What am I, a box to be delivered? We could arrange that, said Sai. Although, we'll probably have to remove a few limbs to put you in a box. And I'm pretty good with my tanto, he said with a smile. Sora remained quiet for the rest of the night after that. As they camped for the night, as Sai had the first watch, as Naruto sat down next to Sora, he spoke before the boy showed up again. I know what you're hiding. Sora's eyes widened as he looked at Naruto. You're the one with the thing, he said. Naruto nodded as his eyes went towards Aoba. Where the man was sleeping, Sakura was also lying down in her own bag as well. But he was not sure that his sensei or Sakura was sleeping. As he turned back towards Sora. Why aren't you... Sora shook his head. I don't believe you, he said. Want to see the seal? Said Naruto. I mean, I just want to know if... If what? Sora said. If I'm some sort of monster who has to be chained against a wall? If I need daily baths in holy water to keep the beast at bay? I don't want your pity. I don't need your words. I don't even care what you do as long as you stay out of my way. But I'll be behind the bushes for a while, said Sora, as he huffed as he left. Naruto just watched her retreating back at the boy, as he sighed. He had just wanted to try and tell him something. He hadn't even gone that far with his thoughts yet. He supposed they could find a common something to talk about, like the weather, the hill, or the gates. Wait, the gates? As Naruto's eyes narrowed as he watched a gate slowly rise. Sai, are you seeing this? Sai was already down, leaving a substitution, a wood one, on the branch. As Sakura and their sensei move as well. Suddenly, earth rocks spike up, tearing the entire camp apart. As Naruto leaped away, blood rushing down his forehead, as one of the stones had slashed him right across the face. He started to run back. As you remember, you're just a coward. You just left the girl there and ran, didn't you? That's how you survived, by running away. Sasuke's voice echoing his ears. He slowed down his pace as he had to twist, as he avoided a hail of needles that glinted in the moonlight. The weapons weren't aimed at him specifically. They were just covering a large area around them. Where was the rest of his team? What level was the enemy at if they couldn't even sense them preparing their attack? He ducked as a steel staff broke open a tree right beside his head. As he leaped away from the figure, pulling out his tanto, the enemy was a female, long dark brown hair, as she was wearing a one piece, beige and black. Her glinting blue eyes show a cruel, sadistic part in it. It's always like this, Akayubi whispered. As the Kunoichi attacked Naruto, he jumped to the side as Kurama kept on talking. They always leave the stragglers to me. I wonder if Fuka will leave somebody behind for me to have some fun with. After all, I'm not asking for that much, right? Said Kurama. Just one enemy to try and play chess against. Someone that's actually smart. As Naruto rolled back towards a tree bark, before he leaped out of the way, the next moment, it exploded. The Kunoichi finally spoke with her real voice, as Kurama was not saying her inner thoughts once again. Interesting. How did you know, she asked, as Naruto remembered what Danzo said. Tension is broken when a shinobi speak to each other. So he kept his mouth shut as he dropped on all fours, avoiding a giant Fuma shuriken that was sailed over his head. As he launched ahead, it was then that he saw it, the gleaming steel wires in front of the Kunoichi, as he got entangled. as she twists her staff in her hand and placed the tip right against his heart. Well, I'll make it quick, she said. As Naruto's eyes widened, he was gonna die here, trapped by an enemy Kunoichi who had no reason come after them. Or maybe she had. Maybe. He didn't know. Let him go, a voice shouted as a wounded Sakura rushed forward, the kunai in her hand. The woman didn't even flinch as she turned, removing the staff from her chest and launched it towards Sakura as it burst right through her stomach as blood and fluid sprayed out instantly. Sakura's eyes widened in shock as she looked towards her stomach, charging ahead without backup. That's rather stupid, the woman said. Sakura fell to her knees. Her hands went towards the lance that was placed in her stomach as she felt incredible pain. Was this what Naruto felt when she stabbed him? Was this what Ino felt before she died? This was beyond any pain that she had ever felt before. Just breathing hurt. The wound hurt. Pain was her ever been right now as her body felt weakened and tired. It was only a wound. Naruto had taken it. She had pierced his hand. But she got pierced right through. She wasn't going to survive this. She was going to die out here in the middle of nowhere without having ever kissed someone or without doing anything else. She was going to die without having any children with Sasuke or ever find out if Naruto truly forgave her or not. She was going to die here. She was gonna... The shinobi brought out another stone out of the ground as it turned into a cane. She walked forward as she slammed it against Sakura's head. As Sakura fell to the ground, a dull thud. Nothing happened. There was no poof of smoke, no substitution. She was not moving. She got hit. As Naruto blinked, he was in front of the cage. Do you want to kill her? Well, I have a deal. What do you want? Said Naruto, tears in his eyes. I want Sora. Consume him. Consume what is mine. Consume his malice and give it up unto me. And I will grant you my power for the time being. But once taking a pact with the devil, it's never something to live with, Naruto. It's not easy. As Naruto looked towards the Kyuubi, you knew that they were there. You knew that they were setting a trap for us. Of course I knew. I told you, didn't I? I am the product of every malice, thought or done otherwise. Whether I choose to tell you about them or not is not something you can change. I give on to you when I desire to give, and keep silent when it fit my needs. What? You thought we were some sort of friends, where we look out for one another? You let Sakura die, Naruto screamed. But Naruto, would you have said anything? After all, you kept your mouth shut with Ino when I told you that the enemies were nearby. You would have done the same thing with Sakura, and she would have died anyway. As Naruto froze, the fox was right. He was always right. He wouldn't have said anything because he wouldn't tell them about the Kyuubi, because they would have taken him away from his team. Everyone would be afraid, even worse, thinking that he was influenced by the Kyuubi. He was the problem. From the beginning, I accept, said Naruto. The woman, Fuen, saw the boy stop moving. He was just lying there as she twirled her staff to finish him right off. But suddenly, scorching bright flames melted off the steel wire, freeing him. The very ground was scorched and burned as Naruto took a step forward. Kill, murder, slaughter, die, kill them all. Evil, darkness, blood, death and decay, malice. As Naruto pounced on the woman, as he pulverized her to literally nothingness, beating her to death. He quickly moved towards Sakura as he dropped to his knees. I'm sorry, he said. As Naruto felt darkness wash over his vision, he was confused what was going on, till he saw light as the ink beast that had carried him away, that had literally consumed him, dropped him, the lion. Sai placed a hand to his mouth. As Naruto saw him, Sai gestured towards a tree where Sora was hanging. He was hanging from the upper branch. As Naruto was confused, where was Sakura? As Naruto turned his gaze from left to right, confused, where was Sakura? Sai seemed to understand what he was gesturing about as he pointed. As Naruto turned where Sai's hand was pointing, Naruto's eyes were wide, like they were about to pop right out of his skull. His eyeballs couldn't believe it as Sakura was standing there. There was a hole in her uniform piece, right at the chest, but she was standing there, alive. As she looked back at him, his eyes were staring at her. She thought that he was staring at the hole in her shirt as she reached and covered her chest. As Naruto opened his mouth, Sai slammed his hand over Naruto's mouth. As he told her shh, as he pointed towards Konoha. They began their silent dash through the trees, taking turns bringing Sora across. After 2 hours of running, Naruto spoke up once again. Sai. As the boy glanced at him. Where's Sensei? As Sakura looked towards him, as Sai spoke, MIA. Missing in action, Naruto was puzzled. Aoba was a Jonin. A built Jonin, he shouldn't die from a C-rank mission. Where the hell was he? He must be fighting off the attackers and coming towards him as we speak. I am waiting, the Kyuubi said. Consume what is rightfully mine. How was the Kyuubi expecting that? He wasn't a giant fox. There was no way he could actually eat him, right? That wasn't what the fox wanted. Feast through his belly to my chakra and feed upon what was rightfully mine. Yes. As Naruto blinked, that was what the fox wanted? For him to eat Sora? There was no way he was gonna do that. You would break your promise? The Kyuubi voice sounded frozen, like it had frozen in ice, cold. As that made Naruto feel worse, the Kyuubi had not tried to actively escape all the time, and he had been helpful every now and then, telling him things. But he couldn't just eat Sora. What could he... Guys, he knew what he had to do was the only way. I can talk with the Kyuubi. He wants me to eat Sora. Sai didn't even flinch as he held the monk on his back. Sakura did not say anything, as she was behind him. Dickless said Sai. Using the Kyuubi as an excuse to enact revenge is not the correct way of approaching things, said Sai. The objective is not at fault. Whoever assigned the mission is. Naruto bit his lip. How could he convince them that he let Ino die because he didn't trust anyone with the mind-reading ability of the fox? If he had just told someone back then that Kiri ninjas were nearby, that enemies were nearby, that the fox had told him Ino would still be alive. But how could he tell them that? He couldn't. Futile, isn't it? Said Kurama. Once you dig your own tomb, only you can lie in it, said Kurama. Aoba sensei will be fine, Naruto, said Sakura. He was behind me. He told me to run, to follow you and Sai. Sai went for Sora and Aoba went behind to catch the enemy's attention. He will be fine. He has to be, she said. As they quickly made their way before they collapsed a few hours away from Konoha. Patrol should pass by any moment, I said. This is a meeting point. We were supposed to meet up with Sensei if we ever got lost. 2 hours rest right here. If he doesn't show, we have to go. Naruto watched as Sakura placed on Sora, as she had took half turn carrying him. The monk seemed rather embarrassed that he was being carried by a girl, but he said nothing, as all of them went silent. Until Sakura spoke. Why, were they hunting you, she said. They weren't after us but you. I got some of the Kyuubi's chakra inside of me, said Sora. Sakura's eyes widened as she turned to Naruto, who confirms it. The Kyuubi confirms it. He's pretty pissed about it actually. If he wants it back, he can have it. It brought me nothing but misery, you see? As he showed his hand that was no longer bandaged, the thing looked like a monster claw. The nails, pointed and sharp and black. The arm with a red fur on it. The more I'm angry, the more it grows horrible. Malice feeds me, the Kyuubi said. He should be thankful it did not devour him whole. I lost myself to anger once, over something stupid. The older students were just harassing me, and I yelled at them. It took the head monk to stop me. I killed 10 monks in training and 3 elder monks before he could do that. I was treated no better of a monster after that. Who placed the chakra into you, said Naruto. My father, said Sora. He wished to help Konoha. He thought the Hokage would be favorable of it. But the seal it is too weak. I can't control myself. If I lose myself to anger, I just go on a rampage. I don't know why they were looking for me. The head monk just told me that Hokage want me back in Konoha for some reason. Sai spoke. There was an attempt on the Jinjutsu life at Konoha recently. Whoever did this might be looking for the Kyuubi. You must be a target as well. As Naruto remained silent as you remember, the way the fake Aoba told him what the test, as there was a look of guilt on Sakura's face as she glanced towards Naruto, and a look of curiosity on Sakura's face as well, because she was sure that she was gonna die back there. She had felt the coldness, and everything was going black. But now, she was fine. The skin, where she had been stabbed, was clean, unblemished. Not even a single wound. It was weird. She was alive on Scar. She couldn't understand what happened. More than a target, the fox said. A bomb, ready to explode. Naruto was confused. What was the fox speaking about? I think you will enjoy the ending of this tale because it's already written, the fox said. Naruto did not understand. He just waited for the 2 hours, but no one came. Sakura started to sniffle softly as the group started to make their way back to Konoha. As they stood defeated, their sensei hadn't come. For all purposes, Aoba Yashimaro was dead. Killed in action, he had probably held off the rest of the ambushers and gave them time to escape. He had sacrificed himself for the team somehow. That just made everything worse. If only they had trained more, if only they had been stronger, and yet it didn't matter in the end. How was it supposed to matter? How many deaths they would have to live through? As Naruto was just thankful that Sakura was all better, as he knew who healed her. But he did not know why, as it had to be the fox who healed her. But if the Kyuubi had a heart and actually healed her somehow, because he felt that rush of power, it just came so quickly and it went away so quickly. Did it flow into her and healed her body? But if the Kyuubi had a heart to do something like that for her, that meant he was telling the truth all along about the sage, about his purpose, that he was in the world to destroy malice. And Naruto was stopping him from living his purpose. He was the one here holding back the Kyuubi from curing the world of the malice. And if the fox was telling the truth, that meant he was responsible for every single death that happened in the world. Because of anger or hatred, he was responsible for Ino's death and Aoba's and the civilians who died in the tent. He was responsible and he was too weak to do anything about it. The sun started to shine high in the sky. As they saw the gates, they had ran for the entire night and barely caught their breaths. They were tired, disheveled, bloody, limping. As they started to pass through the gates, it was then that a shadow rushed past them and slammed Sora into a tree. The figure pulled back his hand. Blue flames were on each of his fingertips as he said 2 words, Gashefun. As he disappeared in the ground a second later, after slamming his hand on Sora's stomach, Sora's body then started to change as a corrosive chakra melt the tree that he had slammed into. The gate guards rushed out of their boots. Wait, isn't that Team 13? What the hell is that? It was like burning blood as Sora fell on his hands and knees. The story is at its end. Now consume him or die. As Naruto brought his hand up, but he was too slow as Sora drove right into him. Naruto heard bones snap, blood gushing out, lungs puncturing as the attack had connected and tore right through him. As Naruto started to fall, but he was grabbed by an Anvu and flashed away. Medic, the Anvu shouted. It hurt. As Naruto felt something stir within him. Memories. Dad, where are we going? Somewhere safe. Liar. Why would I lie to you, Sora? Because I'm a monster, right? You're not a monster, Sora. As Naruto had looked over and saw the claw rip right through a Chunin and slammed him into a tree. Bones crack and snap. As Naruto saw the Hokage rushing towards their destination quickly, he saw Sora turn his head towards Sai, who was trying to fight it back with ink iron. Sakura was throwing kunais and shurikens at the beast. You can't do anything to stop him now. His seal is disappearing, said the Kyuubi. This is your last chance. This is your last chance. As Naruto saw Sora getting larger, consume him. If not, as Naruto saw cracks appearing on Sora, in the end, you will pay the price. As a fifth tail was trying to emerge, as Sora roared, a roar that shook buildings nearby. As Naruto heard a voice, it was Sora's. It hurts. Make it stop. Help me, Sora screamed. Fire exploded out from Sora, burning a nearby building. As Naruto saw Anvus relocate his teammates, but Hiruzen speed through hand sign as a massive Earth Dragon came up. It was large. The thing slammed right into Sora as it consumed him. As Sora was being ripped up from the chakra, it was tearing his body to pieces as there was nothing remained of the poor boy. It was then that the chakra burst. As it flew up in the air, it was violent and deadly. It seemed to just spark as it looked around. Yes, even though it didn't have a face, it moved. It swayed with the wind before it shot forward like a wave. As the chakra slammed right into Naruto's stomach, as Naruto screamed on top of his lungs. As I was saying, the fox said as he was reunited with his chakra, consuming him before all of this. It could have avoided this. Who knows, eating him before leaving the temple, before meeting the enemy, maybe Aoba. would still be alive. As Naruto heard his name cried out as Hiruzen landed beside him. Naruto, I'm pathetic. I'm really pathetic, JJ, said Naruto, as blood started to come from his mouth. Aren't I? What happened here? Wasn't your fault, Hiruzen said. It was mine. Naruto snapped up as he was now in a sitting position, his eyes red, like they were bleeding blood. He snapped his head towards Hiruzen. What do you mean, Hokage-sama, he said. As Hiruzen took a breath. We should discuss this somewhere else, like in a hospital for yourself, he said. I want my team. I'm not going anywhere without my team, he said. Good thing they've been brought to the hospital then, the third said. Let's go, Naruto. As Naruto picked himself up as he was no longer injured, the fox then started to speak, using them as hatred to lure out Orochimaru lackeys. Worked perfectly, said Kurama, as Naruto's eyes narrowed towards the back of the Hokage. He didn't expect Naruto to take on a C rank immediately, right after what just happened. Aoba lost was in parameters, and Kakashi will foster this team to the Chunin exams then. As long as everything works, then Orochimaru would be brought down in due time. The Kyuubi then went quiet as Naruto's eyes were on the back of the Hokage. In the cell, the Kyuubi looked around as he saw cracks all over the wall. He smiled gleefully. The moment he found out what truly was going on, the boy was definitely gonna crack. Yes, he was. He laughed to himself. You are the one pathetic, a female voice whispered. Kurama looked towards the corner of his jail. Truly pathetic. Lying to a child. Shut up, Kurama said. This could have been avoided if you had let me go, rather than sealing me again. I told you this would happen, but did you listen? No. So shut the hell up and suffer your consequences. You cannot pin all of this on me. Your power was too great to let go uncontrolled. Live with that excuse for as long as you like, but it will change absolutely nothing, said Kurama. Your race, they will pay the price. The female stopped talking, and Kurama returned back to his shogi board in front of him as he removed a piece from his enemy position. There was still a few left, but in the end they will all disappear, one by one. He will make sure of that, and it will happen only when it hurt the most. The further crack. Time skip. The hospital staff was worried of the boy, but the Hokage murderous gaze. They got to work immediately. As Naruto was placed in the same room as his teammates, he was immediately held tightly by a pink-haired blur. You're alive! You're alive! Sakura said with tears when I saw the creature attacking you. With all that blood. Dickless can't die, said Sai. He has to be lucky somewhere, right? Glad to see you too, Sai, said Naruto. Sakura started the hugging in a small heap as she realized Hokage was there as well. Hiruzen simply chuckled lightly before his face turned a bit serious. Naruto did not want me to debrief him without you too, he said. Clearly, the teaching of the leaf of important teammates are not wasted on your team. As Naruto scratched the back of his head, Sakura had a smile on her face. Being praised by the Hokage isn't a small feat after all. Sai's face was blank as usual. Hokage-sama ready for debriefing, Sai said, as he stood at attention, the other two joining him. As they stood next to each other, Hiruzen smiled before he nodded. Very well. I will ask your written reports later, but for the moment, know this. I am extremely sorry to say that we already had suspicions of a danger moving towards Konoha Jinchuriki. But since we needed some concrete proof, we needed to move quickly to secure what else we could to tie down against him. And we were used as bait, said Sai. Indeed, Hiruzen said. This was a mission necessary for Konoha's survival, and the rest of the mission was taken into account. But we needed that confirmation. For what? Said Naruto. Our sensei died for what? He asked. I'm sorry, but I cannot tell you at the moment. It's a matter of national security. You may choose to hate me for this, but this is a choice I as Hokage had to make for the good of the entire Hidden Elite village. I suspected all along, but now we have a clear idea of the enemy. True objective. His gaze set on Naruto. They have found a way to free the Kyuubi, and you're their target. We can be assured that they will act in the time frame of the Chunin exams. He glanced towards Sai, and with the help of an old friend, we have also uncovered a few spies in our midst. I gave you the mission abruptly because it was something unpredictable. I shouldn't have sent your team because you were being targeted. But by doing that, we catch a spy trying to deliver the message outside of Konoha. And we have found the remaining members. I will not disclose their name, but we are getting closer to the enemies. Thanks to your mission, bringing Sora back to the village was never a part of the real mission, said Naruto. He was just a tool to be used. Here's an exhale a long breath Unfortunately, the title of Hokage is not a simple matter of putting a hat on your head and stamping some papers. The good of the village must come before the good of the individual. We have uncovered a spy group in Konoha, and the price that we have to pay is nothing compared to the safety of all those who live in the village. As Naruto's eyes just seemed to narrow even more. Are we tools as well, he said. Your shinobis, Hirsen said. Your duties are many, your privileges few. You are military. You are a leaf that shield a tree, the branches that hold steady against the wind. You are the bark that defend against the elements, and the roots that anchor the tree to the world. You are shinobi. Sometimes you are family. Sometimes you are friends. And sometimes, yes, you are tools. But you are never only tools. This might seem jaded, because sometimes it is jaded. But it is not easy to send men and women to their death on missions every single day and expect them all to come back alive. Out of 100 missions, 1 or 2 fail. Out of 1,000, there can be 1 or 2 deaths. Out of tens of thousands, there is certainly someone who dies. All I can do is offer my condolence to your team, and you will be given time to grieve. But not much, because Konoha needs you. A new sensei will be chosen soon. I'll send a message when time comes. And it was then that they fully understand the realization that Aoba was dead, fighting off against the enemies out there. He was not coming back. As Sakura clenched her fist tight as she tried the hardest not to give in to the pain. As Shinobi doesn't show his tears, right? Okage-sama, she said. Here is a nod as he turned. Nothing forbade dust in the eyes, however, he said. As with that, he quietly left, closing the door behind him. As Sakura started to cry. He's dead. Aoba-sensei is dead, she said. Sakura, she stopped before she slapped her cheeks. No, we can't cry, she said. He wouldn't have wanted that, would he? He would have wanted us to become the best team ever, right? Just as planned, said Naruto. Sai looked at the both of them. He did not understand why they're crying. He had a brother once and he died, but he never cried then. Death happened in the shinobi world. You could enjoy being with someone, but crying for their death? One should cry for the destruction of the village. One should cry if they fail. One should not cry for a shinobi's death. But he kept that to himself. Cherry, ridiculous. We should plan, he said. We should, said Sakura. Yeah, said Naruto. Sensei would have wanted that. Naruto, Sakura said, as she looked curious. Does the Kyuubi really talk to you, she said. He began just recently, said Naruto. But sometimes it's difficult to hear him. Lies and deceit can only hold for as long as the soul can. As Naruto started to sweat a bit, he didn't do what the Kyuubi said. Was he wanting revenge? He couldn't leave the seal, right? If he could, why wouldn't he have done it earlier? Well, Minato would have come and stopped him then, right? Using your brain to get answers will get you nowhere. And I'm not inclined to answering your questions, considering how you fail my tests miserably. Because you think it's easy trusting you, Naruto muttered back. Sakura and Sai blinked as he looked at him perplexed. Sorry, said Naruto, I was talking to him. Is it safe? Sakura whispered back. I mean, it's a Kyuubi. It nearly destroyed all of Konoha. Pity I missed her crib, said Kurama. People who say the obvious are just appalling. It's pretty clear cut, said Naruto. And I would be dead without him for him to heal my wounds. I am not your glorified nurse boy. I am doing it because you can't keep breaking splinters like how you can break a tree bark. I could care less whether you die or not. Still, the Hokage know, right? Said Sakura. If he does, then it's no, said Naruto as he looked down. You two are the only one I trust with this, he said. But Sakura started to stammer. That could be treason, Naruto, she said. I am with Cherry, said Sai. He then paused. For sake of clarification, no, I have not become a woman, or do I have a cherry on my body, and I am not pregnant with a fruit. The both of them looked at him. What, said Sai, as the two of them started to laugh. That was horrible. Really horrible, said Sakura. So where do we go now, said Naruto. My parents are probably worried sick. I should probably go back home, said Sakura. How about we meet tomorrow at Hebai for lunch? As Naruto nodded. I will be there, said Sai. Nicholas, Cherry. As he opened the window and leaped out. As he couldn't take the stairs, Naruto thought to himself. We're checked to go, said Sakura. As she stopped. Are you sure that you're fine? That blood, all of that blood, she said. I told you before, said Naruto. I'm pretty much indestructible. As long as I survive a battle, the Kyuubi is pretty much of a bastard, but he's fair to his deals. Not like you. But one of us has to be the voice of truth, honesty, and reason, right? Sakura waved him goodbye as she left, leaving him alone in the hospital room. He still had to be checked by a medic, as he waited for a nurse to come and check him up. As he wondered, was he really doing the right thing? Keeping thinks to himself. Lying from the beginning. Was this being a real shinobi? Was that what it meant? A nurse then came in, snapping from his thoughts. She didn't even touch him as she just looked over him. You can leave. There are people that are actually hurt. You know, the ones that got hurt by that cousin of yours that went on a rampage. He wasn't my cousin, said Naruto, as he stood up. Monsters all share the same family, don't they? She said, as she turned her back walking away. As Naruto stood there, his eyes wide. Surely they wouldn't. Surely the people wouldn't. And why not, the Kyuubi said. A creature like the Kyuubi wounded and killed people today, near the gate. The moment Team 13 came back with their little pet Jinchuriki, the Hokage fought the aberration and reported say that the engine entered the Jinchuriki. Why wouldn't they think it was you? But I'm innocent, said Naruto as he walked out. As a lot of people were pushed on stretchers. As he heard doctors, nurses scream for blood and cauterizing wounds. Did Sora cause all of this? As am I, said Kurama. You cannot claim that I did not give you a choice. I told you to consume him. I even forced your hand to test your honesty. Thus, all of this is your entire fault, Naruto Uzumaki. You pay the price for not listening. How many times will you pay it before you understand? You're the Kyuubi, not me, said Naruto as he rushed off, ignoring the glares of the people that came by to see their family members that got hurt, as they pointed at him as he moved through the hallways. He didn't even fight, he was wounded at the beginning. Maybe, but you're the one that refused to speak. You're the one that keep my warnings to yourself. You're the one that keeps on closing his ears to my words. I do not care if you live or die, Naruto. All I want is to be set free. You Uzumakis have long vitality. Your mother survived the extraction of me, even when I was removed by force. You just have to let me go. I will be gone doing my job once again. And I won't attack you or your friends. Konoha would know and they would ask me how the Kyuubi disappeared. And even then I can't trust you. You see, Naruto, in the end your words admit the truth that you try to hide every single time. You are no better than the jailer before you. You know of my innocence by now, and yet you persist to keep me here because of your own selfishness. The world is screaming in agony and pain for me and my brethrens. But you do not care, do you? No. It is only I that is important with humans. The good of the humans before the good of the world. I thought you different. But I was wrong. You are even worse than the others. You go as far as faking not listening my words. As Naruto started to breathe heavily, Aoba was dead. The Kyuubi was tearing him apart with words, and the Hokage had used him from the very beginning. And even worse, he was the only one to blame for all of this. He had the chance to make things right, but he did not. This was Ino's mission all over again as he made his way through the back alleys, ignoring the rooftops. As he paused, as he saw a woman enter the root shop. She was in a tuning flap jacket. He didn't turn to leave, but he paused to go back to Danzo's house without going by the shop and telling the man that he came home safely. As he made his way, he smelled something. His nose twitched. He recognized that smell. The smell of blood. As he entered and saw Danzo behind the counter, he could smell the blood, but he couldn't actually see it. There was no body anywhere. Naruto, said Danzo with a small nod. You came back already. I heard there was some trouble at the gates earlier. Was your team involved? Danzo asked. Yes, Shimura-sensei, he muttered. The target we had to bring back to Konoha. He went mad, Naruto whispered. We lost Aoba-sensei too. And his shoulders started to tremble as he looked down the floor. Tears started to streak down his face. He didn't see Danzo move, but next moment he was pulled into a one-arm hug by the old shinobi. Hush, Danzo said. It is fine to cry. There's no one else here. And Naruto did cry. It's not fear, he said. It's not right. He shouldn't have died. As he cried his sadness, his grief, and his emotions out. By the time he stopped, a handkerchief was already given to him by Danzo to wipe his nose and his eyes. It never is. Death is never fear, Naruto. It comes when you least expect it and strike against the people that it will least seem to strike against. I couldn't do anything to the enemy. They ambush us. We could only run. You know, Naruto, Danzo said. Running isn't something really bad, Danzo spoke up. Shinobi should not lay down their life when not asked. A mission should be completed but not at the cost of oneself. The code should be lax in its interpretation, said Danzo, as he spoke something directly against his belief. Just saying those words, Danzo felt like committing suicide. But the boy looked at him with those shining, clear eyes of his. How could he not say those words that he knew the boy wanted to hear? We will be getting a new sensei soon, said Naruto. Danzo nodded at the same time the office, as Harrison just appointed his stamp. No, he said again. You will not get Team 13. But my team is recuperating in the hospital. Yes, and because of that I am wary of giving you a team that might end up the same way before the tuning exam begin. Hokage-sama, I have to do this of the fort. Please. No, Hiruzen said. The new sensei has already been chosen. You will stand on the watch over Chonin Sabeke and the team composed of Kabuto, Yuri, Akadu, and Misumi, Surgai. If they meet again, you are to listen into their conversation and deliver them back to me. Kakashi deflated as he nodded quietly. Who will you assign then? Tenzo? No, assigning him would just confirm to Orochimaru that we know what his plans are for Konoha. Furthermore, he will know the skill set of the operative. I will assign Nico. She's a sensor type with basic knowledge of Fuinjutsu. After all, I think it's time to know the basic of sealing. Don't you think? Said Hirsen. And if they will have to train harder than ever for Chunin exams, there will be no need for Danzo participation in the matter. Nico is a skilled fighter in Kinjutsu, not with a Tanto user though. I could train Naruto with a Tanto if Danzo is a problem, said Kakashi. Kakashi, you think I cannot understand what your thoughts are, said Hirsen. This is a trap we're sending the kids into, Kage-sama. We know that Orochimaru will strike at the exam, and he will strike at Naruto to unleash the Kyuubi. And when he would try to do that, you will already give me the means to interrupt and take him down, Hirsen said. Do not let emotions cloud your judgment, Hatake. This is for the good of the village. I understand. Good, you're dismissed. Kakashi disappeared in a flutter of leaf and a gust that blew away all of Hirsen's paper. As Hirsen's eye twitched as he watched the floating paper, that he released a breath. I'll go take a walk. Aoba Sensei funeral was held. 2 days later, Konoha Cemetery wasn't filled with more than half a dozen people. There was an old lady there crying a lot. Probably his mother. As Naruto watched the scene with the most impassive face that he could muster, he was on a branch a few distance away. He hated funerals. He didn't know if he would be considered guilty of this by the grieving mother. And he didn't want excuses. He was tired of excuses. He could see Sakura looking around every now and then, tried to find him. Sai knew where he was, but Sai didn't say anything about it. Hokage finished his speech and bowed politely to Aoba's mother as he left towards the tower. It was an honor to have the Hokage talking to her funeral. It was something only Jonins and envoys received. Great honor indeed for someone buried underneath the ground. As Naruto heard a soft step next to him, an envoy wouldn't have made a single sound if they didn't want to be heard. As he turned his head, a woman with purple hair and a cap mask looked at him. You're not going down there. And you, said Naruto. You have nothing else to do. She did not reply, she just turned her gaze back to the people, going to offer their condolences to Aoba's mother. Words are meaningless, right? The woman said. Said Naruto. Words are meaningless. Is that why you're not down there? Because words won't change anything, the woman said. Naruto nodded. It's not like he's gonna rise from the grave. Besides, it's empty to begin with. And his body wasn't found, maybe. That's a fool's hope, she said. Missing in action is a fancy term. You won't see him again. He looked at her up and down. You knew, Aoba Sensei. She had a sword strapped to her back. The uniform she was wearing was sleeveless, but she had a pair of metal arm guards. Not personally, no. But I heard of him. So why are you here, said Naruto. We should do the presentation with the entire team, she said. Naruto's eyes widened for a second. So you're a new sensei, he said. She blinked once. You don't seem too surprised. I am Anfu, an avid Jinjulki of the Kyuubi, he said. You think I haven't seen many of you strolling by my apartment, day and night? Well, they aren't doing a good job if a Genin can see them, she muttered back. Oh, I didn't, said Naruto. Thanks for confirming it for me, though. She blinked. Though Naruto couldn't see because of the mask. Is this hazing? Are you trying something, she said. The Chunin exams are soon. We intend on participating. Will that be a problem? Naruto asked. Pass the reports on the evaluation your sensei wrote. I don't even know what your team can do, she said. And unless I give my endorsement, your team will not be participating. Then you see, we don't have a problem, said Naruto. We want to participate. If you weren't, there would be a problem? She asked. No, Aoba Sensei wouldn't want us to give you trouble. But I'm sure Sakura will sulk and Sai would give you an increased number of sarcastic remarks. Oh right, Sai is not a bad kid. He tends to speak his mind freely and is a bit strange most of the time. But I think he's just shy. If he gives you an ugly nickname, it's not like he really mean it. Sakura is our team leader. She's the most people person between us, and she's got a book smart mind when she's not scared. She's the one with the least stamina of us all, but she's trained to overcome that. And what about you? I'm the Jinjulki of the Kyuubi, he said. As long as I don't die in a battle, I'll be up and about in about 5 minutes, wounds. Just don't stick with me. I'm learning Tanto Jutsu with a private instructor. Shimura Sensei, I'm completely tied jutsu-less, he said. Something come close to me and I'm dead if I'm unarmed. And if the enemy is killed. And I already killed someone as well, he said. I understand, she said. Let's go down now and pay our respects. The moment they descended down from the branch, only Naruto teammates were left. Sakura clenched her fists, but she shook her head and simply moved closer, as she gave him a rather awkward hug, and then pushed him forward towards the tombstone of their sensei. She gave a look towards the Anvu as Sai simply looked at the Anvu with a quizzical face. "Well, sensei," said Naruto. "Hope you, it's been an honor," he said, as he bowed to the stone. "I'll never forget you." He then walked back to the new sensei. "My name," the Anvu said, "is Yujiro Uzuki." As she removed her mask, her brown eyes and porcelain-like skin to her team. "I am a member of the Special Assassination and Tactics Squad. To be more correct, I was a member of the Anvu. As of now, I've left the Corps and I've been reinstated as a Jonin. Ninja ID 012061. I like to train and have regular spars. My hobby is moon viewing, and I dislike traitors, the Konoha and the Hokage. My dream is to have a happy family life," she said. She looked towards Naruto. "I'm sure that you're all familiar with the presentations, Uzumaki." "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," he said without skipping a beat. "I like my team. I dislike those who will harm my team," he said. "I enjoy the time spent training. I dream to become strong enough to protect my team. I know of a fellow shinobi is pretty much identical with the mindset that you have," said Yujiro. At that moment, a certain silver-haired shinobi sneezed as he dropped the apple that he was peeling. He cursed as he had to start over again. Sasuke, who was bandaged up, limped away in his cast as he had a murderous look in his eye. "Haruno. My name is Sakura Haruno," said Sakura. "I like my team," she said. A strange smile came on her face. "And I dislike those who harm my team." The smile turned a bit feral. "I enjoy the time spent training, and I dream to become strong enough to protect the both of them," she said. "So too," said Yujiro. As Sai frowned for just a second, but it was gone. "I am Sai," said Setu, he said. "I like drawing, cherry, and dickless." Yujiro blinked as she turned towards Sai and Naruto, who simply shrugged back. "I disliked seeing them hurt, and he seemed to struggle with his thoughts for a moment. "I like being in this team, and I dream of becoming strong enough to protect my team." "You planned this," said Yujiro. As she turned her gaze towards Naruto, simply smiled back. "There won't be any problem, Sensei," said Naruto. "I already told you that." She sighed. "How about we go somewhere for lunch? We can get to know each other better in this and that." The three of them nodded at the exact same time. She sighed once again. But guys, if you ain't subscribed right here, if you want the next part, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Was 2 Advanced First Age over on Anime Making 2 that I posted. And enjoy that, guys. And also, stay tuned for a new episode coming over on Making 3. Yes, if you're new, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels: Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, I'm off now. See you guys very soon. Peace. I'm out, guys.